Well, I have to tell you, I started my public speaking career as a nervous introvert with absolutely no prior experience. Well, I shouldn't say I had no prior experience. When I was about 12 years old, I went to, or 12 or 13, I went to a youth leadership conference. And when I came back from that, I had to speak in front of the group that had sponsored me to tell them what I had learned and kind of thank them. And it was a group of lovely, lovely old men, the least threatening group of people you could possibly speak to. And I remember so vividly, I was so nervous. My body got so hot that my glasses fogged up and I couldn't read my paper and I had to stop. I was doing this trying to clean my glasses off so I could, so I could read my paper. And finally, I just stopped. It was so horrible. So that was my first public speaking experience. My second public speaking experience did not go much better than that. It was a live presentation on a Disney cruise ship in a theater that held about 800 guests and one panic-stricken presenter, which was me. And I vividly recall I had actually just joined the ship that day. So I was brand new on board. I didn't know anyone. And I remember trying to convince other crew members to push me down the steps because I was sure if I had a broken leg or a twisted ankle, they couldn't make me do it. Now, in hindsight, I know how silly that was because they would have definitely still made me do it. But I remember very little about that first presentation. I seem to have just blocked that entire memory, but I do remember the overwhelming fear before I started talking and the intense relief when I was done. So clearly, public speaking was not a natural talent for me. And that's why you can be sure that when I say you can overcome your fear and become not just a competent speaker, but also an excellent one, no matter where you are right now, it's absolutely true. Because if I can do it, you can definitely do it. So there's some tricks and techniques that I learned over the years that made the whole process easier and less stressful that you can use to make public speaking an almost enjoyable experience. And the importance of becoming a confident speaker really can't be overstated. It will help you in every aspect of your career, from giving simple presentations at the office, or maybe negotiating a raise or a contract with a client, or just being able to grab onto opportunities that come up to speak at meetings or events that you would otherwise, pass on. You'd shy away from and say, no, thank you. But if you're terrified, you're not alone. It is actually in the top 3 fears of most adults. 75% of adults will actually list fear of public speaking ahead of fear of death. That's how afraid of it we are. So I have 10 tips that will help you get over the fear and become a more confident speaker. Are you ready? Everybody ready? Give me a thumbs up in the comments if you're ready. All right, now they say that knowledge is power, and I would suggest that knowledge is actually confidence. And my first 4 tips are all about using information to help make you feel prepared. So number 1, and this may seem obvious, but it's critical, is know your material. And the reason for that is the biggest fear hurdle for most people is that they're going to forget what they're supposed to say. We have nightmares about that. We're on stage and we can't remember what we're supposed to say. So here's my tip for you. Write it out, practice it, write it out again in bullet points, practice it. Write it out again in even shorter form, practice it, and repeat until you get to the point where your page is almost single words in bullet points down the page. You want to keep doing that till you get it right down. That's going to guide you through your entire presentation. It's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to make sure you really know the material. And number 2, you're going to actually get to give a scripted presentation without sounding scripted, right? Because you just have that one word and the rest is going to be all of your own words around it. So that is my number 1 tip for knowing your material. Write it out, make it smaller, write it out, make it smaller until you really literally can just see one word bullet points and you know exactly where you're going with that presentation. Number 2, and this is especially, I'm a big introvert, and one of my uncomfortable things is not knowing what a place is like before I go there. So know your venue, because the unknown is scary. So the more you know, the better prepared you're going to feel. So find out as much as you can about the venue before you have your speaking date. So check out pictures of the room. You want to know if there's steps up to the stage, right? You want to know if there's going to be a podium for your notes so that you're prepared. It helps you be prepared, and it also takes that one anxiety off your list so you don't have to think about it anymore. Number 3, and this is what we always forget, and when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. So put it on your list. Know who will introduce you and know how you will be introduced, because there is nothing that will throw you off your game faster than having to get up on stage after someone has given the wrong information about you or what you're going to speak about. It can send your entire presentation and your confidence off the rails. So be sure to clarify who will be introducing you and then give them accurate notes on how to introduce you, what you're going to be talking about, any details they should be sharing about you, and how to pronounce your name if it's tricky. All of those things you want to control and give them that information up front so that there's no surprises. Right. And the fourth tip about information is know your audience. And this is key to delivering a great presentation, because even if the material that you deliver is basically the same each time, knowing who you're speaking to is going to let you add details that's going to help you connect with them. And it's also going to let you remove any information or references that might not be appropriate with that particular group. So it helps you create a relationship with the crowd, which is going to feed energy back to you, and it's going to keep your performance on point. So you always want to, no matter what your presentation is, tailor it to the audience that you're speaking to so that you can build that connection. All right, number 5 is to visualize. And anybody that's familiar with mindset work is going to be familiar with this one. Even elite athletes will visualize their race or their event from start to finish hundreds of times before the competition. They're going to walk through that entire routine or event. It helps them build their confidence. It helps them foresee any possible issues. And it convinces their mind that when they walk into that real competition, that the win is almost guaranteed, because as far as their brain knows, they've done it 1,000 times before. Well, the same is true for you in your presentation. So imagine yourself walking up on the stage, arranging your notes, taking the microphone, thanking the host and the audience for the warm welcome. You want to imagine every step from start to finish. You want to visualize that receptive audience, the applause, the confidence that you have, all of those things before you go in. Again, it's going to get your mindset right, but it's also going to help you walk through every step of the way so that you can troubleshoot any potential issues before they come up. So it's really a twofold strategy. Number 6, time it. No matter where you're speaking, almost every single time you will have an allotted time period that you need to stay in. So make sure you know exactly how long your presentation will be. Going a bit short in your presentation time isn't usually a problem, but you don't want to get halfway through your presentation and realize that you're almost out of time, because either you have to awkwardly end your presentation without actually following the full arc of your story, or you have to quickly figure out how to summarize the last half of your presentation in the small amount of time that you have left. So do everybody a favor, including yourself, grab a timer, stand up, and present it aloud as if you're really presenting to an audience, because we speak much slower than we read. So if you time yourself just reading it in your head, it's going to be a lot shorter than the actual live presentation when you're speaking aloud will be. So get your presentation, pretend there's somebody in front of you, and time it so that you can see how long that presentation is, and then you can tweak it if necessary. Number 7 is to find a friendly face. And this trick is my secret weapon. I use this from beginning to end of all of my presentations. I would arrive to my presentations about 15 minutes early, and then I would walk down to the front of the stage and chat to some of the guests that were seated there. The idea is to build a connection and create a few raving fans in the front row so that when you get on the stage and your nerves hit, you have a few groups of people that you can focus on that are smiling at you and cheering you on. It boosts your confidence, and it really helps you tune out the rest of the crowd if you start to feel overwhelmed. So find a friendly face. If you've got a friend in the audience, you've got family in the audience, or if you don't, just build that connection a little bit before if you can. And if you really can't even do any of that, just find the friendliest face in the room and focus on them, because they're internally cheering you on. All right, number 8. For this one, I leaned on maybe more times than I should have. But no matter what happens, it's over in blank minutes, however long your presentation is. So this is the other secret weapon for the times when it really goes wrong. Just keep going, carry on. No matter what happens at the end of your time period, it is done. It is over. So you could just stand there and say nothing for 15 minutes. Not that I recommend that, but at the end of the 15 minutes, it would be over. So hang in there. At the end of the period, no matter how badly it's going, it will be over. And number 9 ties into that, really. Nobody probably noticed that little slip that you just made except for you. You've got to remember that. You know the material. You know what order you wanted to say it in or what words you meant to use. They don't. Okay? So just keep going. Carry on. Don't give that mistake another thought, because if you keep thinking about that slip up, you're going to be distracted and you're going to make more mistakes as you move through the talk. So just let it go and move on. All right. And my number 10 on the tip, and it's not the least important, it just happens to be number 10 on the list, is to record yourself. And it is hard to watch, and I promise it never gets easier for most of us, but it's an incredibly useful tool for improving your performance. We all have verbal tics that we don't even realize we have, like ums and ahs and other filler words that we use in a repetitive manner. And you're still going to use some of those. But when you watch your recording, you're going to see ones that specifically stand out that you use, far too much or that you could change. So definitely record yourself. The best way to catch and fix those unique verbal and physical tics is to record yourself presenting and then watch it back so you can catch it and improve it. It's also going to help you pick up parts of your presentation that might not be clear or might not flow properly. So watching yourself like your audience will observe you is really the best way to improve your presentation skills and your material at the same time. And probably the most important tip of all, this is a bonus tip, is to just start doing it. The best way to improve at public speaking is to actually speak in front of crowds. So take the opportunities whenever they arise and push yourself beyond what's comfortable in order to grow your skills. Because the more you do it, the better you'll get. So get out there and practice.